In this video, I'm going to show you how to create Copilot using multiple ways. Now, in the Copilot Studio interface, there are many ways through which you can create Copilot. Now, in this video, I'm not covering the way through which you can create a Copilot using PowerShell, but there is a possibility that you can create a provision a Copilot using command line as well. Now, there are multiple options through which you can create a copilot. Now, some of the interface are overlapping. However, there are five major ways through which you can provision a copilot. Now, one is you can create a copilot using the home screen itself by making use of the embedded copilot within Copilot Studio to provision your copilot. Now, when you click on Create Copilot, then there is an option to create a copilot using the generative AI or the chat method, which is again making use of generative AI to build or provision a copilot. Then there is a simple way to create a copilot by skipping the configuration and you just provide the name, description, and the instruction. Then there is another way through which you can create a copilot is by making use of a classic bot creation process, which is again based on Power Virtual Agents. So it will create a classic bot instead of creating a copilot for you. And the last way is to create a copilot through templates. Now, this is how the screen will look like. Now, when you log into the Copilot Studio here, the first home screen will welcome you and then will ask you, like, how do you want your Copilot to be created? Like, it will prompt you with some information, like as you see over here, like help desk, expense tracking, HR, and benefit. And you can provide your own prompt as well. So this is about creating Copilot using the home screen. Now, if you create a Copilot, if you click on a button called as Create Copilot, then it will give you a chat interface whereby it will ask you some more information about what kind of Copilot would you need and what are the different configuration required for provisioning the Copilot. Now, this is a modern way of provisioning a Copilot. However, you have an option to skip to configure. So you can just say, I do not want to create a Copilot using this method. I'll just click on skip to configure. Now, if you click on skip to configure, then it will ask you some basic information like the name, changing the icon, description, instructions for Copilot, and then optionally you can add knowledge sources as well. And you have an option to edit the language in the screen. If you create a Copilot using the classic option, then it will ask for some basic information like the name and language and icon are like not mandatory. It will just ask you for name and then you can provision Copilot, the bot quickly. The last option whereby you can create a copilot is through template. So if you want to base your copilot based on some predefined template which is available out of the box, so there are like around six template which are available out of the box and there are more six coming in the upcoming releases. So you can inherit the template and then you can start provisioning your copilot through this particular option as well. Okay. So these are some of the things which are required while creating a bot, which you have already seen, like name, language, icon, description, instructions, knowledge, solution, schema name. So some are mandatory, some are optional, but the mandatory one is name. You need to name your copilot or the bot. Now, let me show you an action. So let me log into Copilot Studio. So if I navigate to Microsoft Copilot Studio, which is copilotstudio.microsoft.com. And if you're in the correct environment, now I'm using a preview version. So I've been navigated to copilotstudio.preview.microsoft.com. And in this interface, I will walk you through multiple ways through which you can provision a Copilot. Now, in the home page, if you go into the home page, here you will see a prompt. Like here you can here see a text box whereby you can provide your prompt. So if you want to build, so let's say build a copilot for expense tracking system for my hotel. Okay, so if you just provide a prompt and if you click on this button, then what it will do, it will send you to a screen whereby it will take that message, pass on that message to this AI generative AI interface, and then from here you can further chat with this particular application. So it says, great, your Copilot will assist in tracking expenses for your hotel. Can you provide more details on how it will help with expense tracking? I can further refine this, or maybe I can put some instruction and say, keep the communication just related to accommodation and uh, employee salary salaries only. So you can restrict your scope, and then you can specify exactly what you want in the Copilot, and you can further refine it. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll just click on create. Okay, so if I click on create, then it will start creating this Copilot. Okay, now we haven't provided any name, we haven't provided any specific description or instruction. We have given instruction, but then we were not specifically mentioned explicitly. Okay, so what it will do, it will start provisioning a Copilot. Now the name of the Copilot is Copilot. Okay, so what you need to do is, once this Copilot is provisioned, you can go ahead and edit the name of the Copilot. You can edit the description, you can edit the instructions accordingly. Right now it is loaded, so you can just say, this is, say, let me name it, this is CP01, because this is the first Copilot which we have created, and we'll call it as hotel finance. Okay, and I'll just click on save. Okay, and then that's it, your Copilot is now provisioned. Now what we have done, we have used the home page to provision a Copilot, right? So what we have done, we have come to home and we have put our instruction over here. Now second way to create a Copilot is, you click on create and then you click on new Copilot. If you click on new Copilot, again, this is like the second step which we encountered when we started creating the Copilot. So I'll say, create a Copilot for tracking pickleball management center. Okay, so it's a simple Copilot which I need to track the sport of pickleball, whereby I will have a lot of subscribers who will be coming on day-to-day basis. Okay, and I'm not going to provide any more instruction, I'll just say click on create. Okay, so again, this is the same process. This is just that you have gone into step number 2 directly. And again, the same process as how we did for CP01 hotel finance, right? So here again, it will take a while for you for it to populate the name, description, instruction. However, you can edit some components when the Copilot is getting provisioned in the backend. So this edit button will be enabled. Now again, the name of this Copilot is not yet defined, because we haven't explicitly specified while creating, because this all has happened using the prompt, right? So if I click on edit over here, I will just say, this is CP02 pickleball. I'll call it as venue management. Okay, and then I'll click on save. Okay, so we have created two Copilots, right? Now let it save. Okay, so if I click on home again, now what I can do, the third way through which I can create a Copilot is, again, if I scroll here, I can create a Copilot based on the template. Now there are 6 templates which are available out of the box. So take for example, if I want to create a template, create a Copilot based on the template store operation. So I'll click on store operation and then it will start provisioning this. Okay, so this is Copilot number 3. So I'll just call it as CP03 dash, and I'll call this as say Girish Opticians. Okay, so this is one of the Copilot which we are creating by a template, and then this is related to store. So we can put this, we can give some instruction like this Copilot answers questions based on uh, opticians So I'll just call this as, this Copilot answers questions based on opticians request. Store Girish optician has stores in Brisbane and Sydney locations only. Any request for other location should be politely ignored. Okay, so I have given a specific instruction for the operation of this copilot. Now the mandatory thing is just name, instructions, language, knowledge you can change over here. Now this is not related to Microsoft Store. I'll just delete this. Okay, so I don't want all this thing. English US is fine, and I'll click on create. Okay, so we are creating the third copilot. Now this copilot which we are creating is created was using the template. Now uh, it will start provisioning this copilot, and here you will be able to edit this copilot as well once this copilot gets its backend operations completed, right? Then we will go into the fourth way of creating a copilot, which will be a kind of a classic copilot, right? So it is provision. Now let me go into the home, and now if I click on create copilot, and now we'll go into the the fourth way of creating a copilot. So if I click on new copilot, then I will not type in any prompt over here. What I will do, I will just say skip to configure. Now if I just say skip to configure, I can create another copilot. So I'll create CP04, and I'll call this as, say, tennis management center. And then I can put some description about this, and I'll put an instruction: only answers query related to tennis and tennis venues, and I'll click on create. Now this is the fourth way of creating a copilot. What we have done, we haven't used any of the generative AI to generate the copilot, but then we have just clicked on skip to configure button, and then it has provisioned the copilot. The mandatory field was name. However, we have put the description and instructions as well, just to identify the copilot operations. So now this copilot is also provisioned. What I'll do, I'll go into the next option, create, and I'll click on new copilot. Now this time I will not type in the prompt over here. I will not click on create. Neither I'll click on skip to configure. What I'll do is I'll click on three dots, and I'll say edit advanced settings. Now here there is a hyperlink called as create a classic bot. Now if I click on create a classic bot, I will just say CP05, and I'll call this as Girish movie rentals. And I can select the icon, I can select the language, but just to keep it simple, I'll just click on create. Now what we have done, we have created another copilot, and this copilot is based on the previous Power Virtual Agent. So this is a classic bot. This will not have much intelligence what we have for the current copilot, which we have already built for the last four copilots which we have provisioned. So there are multiple ways through which you can provision copilot. Now it all depends on your scenario, how you want to provision the copilot, and then you can build this copilot. Now you're not limited till this option. Okay, now I mentioned to you that you can create a copilot using the command line, which I'm going to cover in a separate video. However, if you navigate to make.powerapps.com, so if I go to make.powerapps.com, and if I land into a correct environment and into a proper solution, so what I'm going to do, I'll create a separate solutions. Okay, so here I'll create a new solution, and I'll call it as CP06 using Sol. Okay, and then I'll select a publisher, click on create. Now here, what I'm gonna do is I will create a copilot. Now how to create a copilot? Now this is using a solution approach. So if I click on new, and now here there is an option called as chatbot. So I'll click on new chatbot. Now what it will do, it will point you to a Copilot Studio location. Like it will open the Copilot Studio interface, and then from there you can provision your Copilot. Now from here you will get an option to select the Copilot name, the language, and then You can specify the website as well, right? And there are other options to click on edit advanced option. So I'll call this as CP06 Girish Solutions Hardware. Okay, and I'll click on create. Now this is another way to set up a copilot. So we have seen 6 ways. I will cover the seventh one using the CLI method in my upcoming video. However, these are the multiple ways through which you can provision a copilot as of July 2024. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching.